Hey folks, Nintendo here. Today we're discussing some tips in DayZ that you need to know. Many of these tips are not easy to find out on your own and are things that you'll find out through hundreds of hours of game time. They range from more advanced game mechanics to general game advice to get the most enjoyment out of DayZ. If you do find this video helpful, please consider subscribing. I make a lot of these tip videos and some gameplay adventures too. First off, we have the top secret running power attack. I'll show you exactly how to do that. This is not just your normal attack or heavy attack. This is a third attack that the majority of players do not even know about. Let's quickly recap our melee attacks we can do. So you can do normal attack, of course, by raising your hands with a right click, then attack with left click to punch. The heavy attack is performed the same way, but also holding shift and you'll throw a heavy punch. Now, to perform the running power attack, you will need a healthy amount of stamina, then run about 5 steps and left click. This attack will cause your character to do a lunging attack with additional range and stuns the attacker. If you have a good weapon in your hand, like a sledgehammer or a fire axe, then this attack will be absolutely devastating. Also, since the introduction of patch 1.22, there is another variation of the power attack that you can perform by sprinting for 1 step and then quickly hitting right click and then left click, and it will also perform a quick power attack. This is brand new to 1.22, and at first we weren't even sure if it was intentional. It wasn't in the patch notes. We'll see if this attack sticks around. Next we have a more simple tip, but it's something that didn't really click in my head for a while. Simply put, when you're too cold, the food meter goes down quicker, and when you're too hot, your water meter will go down faster. Even on a warm map like Chinaris, sometimes you can get caught in the rain, soaked, or even if you're high up in elevation, it can cause your character to become cold. Even if you don't get sick, you'll find yourself going through food much faster. The same can be said if you find yourself hanging out by a campfire and you get your temperature up too high and it goes to yellow or red. Your hydration will start to go down much faster. This is just something to keep in the back of your mind, and it helps you make sense of why you might be churning through food and water so quickly. Speaking of situations that will get you hot, you can build fireplaces in sheds. It doesn't look like you should be able to make a fire in here, but it does work. The advantage here is that it gives you a small little place to make a fire that does not emit smoke from the outside. So instead of having to make a fire in the woods and possibly have the smoke be visible, you can just make a fire in a shed and get warm and dry quickly. Here's one that's going to sound a little backwards. You might even disagree with it. Having the best loot is often not as fun as the journey to obtain the loot. Let me explain. In my opinion, the most fun is often had in the early to mid game, when you have some gear like an SKS or a shotgun, a press vest, a random assortment of clothing, and a medium-sized backpack. This is the sweet spot in your journey where anything is possible. When I get completely kitted out with a plate carrier, assault helmet, M4, military clothing, the game actually starts to become less enjoyable to me. It's a catch-22 of DayZ. Unless when I'm geared I find some good PvP with a player that's equally as geared as I am, I almost always get stuck wishing I was back on the coast as a freshie again, where the possibilities are endless. Maybe I'm just speaking for myself, but I'm sure there's a couple of you out there that can relate. If you're ever struggling to find food and want to make it easy mode, simply start fishing. It sounds like a lot of work, but the whole process really does get quick after you go through the motions a couple times. You've got to make a fishing pole, a hook, get some worms, start fishing, make a fire, get a sharp stick, and cook your fish. That sounds like a lot of work, but really it gets quick. If you take the time to catch about 4 more fish and eat them, you'll be in a very solid place on food. If you want to catch some additional fish and make them last longer, you could even place them on a drying rack and smoke them to extend the amount of time before they go rotten. So don't sleep on fishing. It's a very solid way to start a run. Get a bunch of fishing done early, and you won't have to worry about hunger for a very long time. One of the best ways to get good at PvP is to get yourself in those situations often. Yes, there is a time and place for taking a fight in DayZ, Sometimes the smart thing to do is not take a fight at all, especially if you're outnumbered. Always try to find a way to get an advantage when you're going into a fight. With all that said, the more fights you get into in DayZ, the better you will get. The more mistakes you make, the more you learn from them. Before you know it, you'll be able to think more clearly in the heat of the action. You could even hop into a deathmatch type server and just get used to PvP that way. Just keep in mind that deathmatch PvP is quite a lot different than real organic PvP moments, and players will not typically use the same sort of movement and make the same sort of choices than they would in normal DayZ. Another thing that took me a long time to learn, well, when tossing nades or trying to raid a base with explosives, stand back further than you think you need to. The blast radius on explosives is large, so don't accidentally blow yourself up. One of the more common ways to set off a bunch of explosives against a base wall is to stack a bunch of nades and then shoot one from a distance. Stand way back, and when you think you're back far enough, take 5 more steps back. You don't want to go through all the trouble of collecting a ton of mats to raid a base, only to get destroyed in the first couple minutes. You can get a stone knife easily by using many different commonly found tools against a boulder. One of the comments I get a lot from new players is that they can't find a knife, so they can't start crafting, or do simple tasks like cut up a chicken to cook. With this method, you can get a knife by finding just about any metal tool. You can use tools such as hammers, crowbars, wrenches, pipe wrenches, meat tenderizers, screwdrivers, pickaxes, sledgehammers, and more. Equip one of these tools, go up to a boulder, and break off a stone. Put the stone into your hand, and then sharpen that stone against that boulder. Just like that, you have a stone knife. Let me ask you a question. Have you ever eaten a rabbit in DayZ? Yes, you can catch rabbits. You need to make a snare trap with short sticks and a metal wire. Place the trap, and then you'll need to attach bait. The type of bait you use will influence what you catch. Using a worm will catch you a chicken. But if you use an apple as bait on the trap, you'll catch a rabbit. Skinning the rabbit will give you delicious rabbit legs that you can cook up. Who knows, maybe you want to hold on to one of the rabbit legs and it'll bring you good luck. Lastly, as of patch 1.22, it is now the case that sharp weapons do more health damage and are best for taking down infected AI. Blunt weapons do more shock damage and are generally better for PvP. That is because with high shock damage, they will quickly knock players unconscious. This is just a general rule of thumb. On the flip side, the best sharp weapons, such as a fire axe, will still do good damage in melee PvP by doing a high amount of health damage and straight up sending players back to the coast instead of knocking them out first. Follow me on Twitch to catch me live, subscribe to the channel, and snipe the like button. Comment and let me know what you think of the video or what I should do next. Blast the video on the left for more DayZ content. Thank you and have an awesome day. Peace.